It's Friday, June 5th, 2026. Welcome to episode 205 of the Alameda Postcast, an audio service of the Alameda Post. I'm your host, Scott Peeler. In this edition of the Postcast, the City Council approves a parking plan for the Gene Sweeney Aquatic Center. The Planning Board prepares for one of their biggest challenges. The primary may be over, but the tallying continues. Encinal Field gets a new name. Changes to schedules and fares at AC Transit. Alameda received some welcome funding, and with the end of the school year, a look at events to keep you occupied. These stories and more on this episode of the Alameda Postcast. Our top story. As previewed by Karen Jensen in last week's episode, on Tuesday, the City Council addressed a parking strategy for the future Aquatic Center in Gene Sweeney Open Space Park, endorsing a 50-space parking lot paired with shared parking agreements. Public testimony was divided, with supporters arguing that the plan preserves valuable open space and advances the city's climate goals, while opponents contended the Aquatic Center is a citywide facility that requires substantially more parking to meet long-term demand. A lot of the issue essentially boils down to, do you build for average use or do you build for peak use? Recreation and Parks Director Justin Long presented a recommended parking strategy that reduced on-site parking from 67 to 50 spaces while meeting demand by relying on shared parking agreements, off-site employee parking, and transportation demand management. Long said that studies by consultant Dixon Resources Unlimited found that both parking configurations would experience periods of unmet demand, but that off-site parking solutions would be a more effective solution than simply increasing the number of on-site spaces. Under the proposal, the city has secured 10 daytime parking spaces for Aquatic Center employees and access to 126 evening and weekend spaces at the College of Alameda. This overflow parking will be accessible by a connecting trail. Staff is negotiating with Blue Rise Ventures to provide an additional 25 to 35 unrestricted overflow spaces during peak periods in the Marina Village Office Park about a half-mile away. The parking strategy also includes a range of transportation demand management measures to reduce vehicle trips, including a 5% discount for visitors who arrive by bicycle, public transit, or other alternative modes. Additional strategies include bicycle promotion events, improved wayfinding and transportation information, extensive bike parking, including 6 cargo bike spaces, a large drop-off area, and time-limited parking of 90 minutes to 2 hours to encourage turnover. Public comment revealed a clear divide between advocates of maximizing parking capacity and those prioritizing open space preservation and transportation demand management. Planning Board member Andy Wang said the city should design for typical rather than peak demand, arguing that oversized parking lots represent a poor use of scarce land and that the proposal better aligns with Alameda's climate goals. Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft strongly supported the shared parking approach, stating, quote, "We don't need more pavement, we need permeable surfaces," end quote. On the other side, the Alameda Citizens Task Force argued that the facility must accommodate families, seniors, people with disabilities, swim teams, and residents from throughout Alameda, stating, quote, "The proposed aquatic center is envisioned as a citywide resource, not merely a neighborhood amenity," end quote. They advocated for a larger parking supply of approximately 165 spaces. Councilmember Tony Dasog was skeptical of relying on 5-year parking agreements with nearby property owners. Vice Mayor Pryor's motion to endorse a 50-space parking lot, shared parking agreements, off-site employee parking, time-limited on-site parking, and alternative transportation incentives passed 4-1, with Councilmember Dasog casting the dissenting vote. The motion also directed staff to continue evaluating parking demand and consider future adjustments, including potential paid parking and residential parking permits as operational data becomes available. Full story in Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. While you're there, you'll want to check out Karen's preview of Monday's upcoming Planning Board meeting. This one's a big one, as the board holds a study session on the Main Street Neighborhood North development at Alameda Point. The roughly 31-acre site, bounded by Main Street, West Midway Avenue, and Pan Am Way, includes historic residential neighborhoods, the Officers Club, chapel, theater, and nearby properties owned by the Alameda Unified School District. Staff are considering issuing a request for qualifications to developers in late 26 or early 27 to seek guidance on priorities related to housing, historic preservation, open space, density, and infrastructure. Analysis suggests the area could accommodate between 600 and 1,000 housing units under various scenarios. However, staff cautions that redevelopment faces significant obstacles, including costly infrastructure upgrades, flood protection requirements, sea level rise adaptation, historic preservation obligations, financing challenges, and the relocation of existing tenants. A key finding is that higher density housing may not improve the project's feasibility. Unlike most developments in Alameda, projects at Alameda Point must comply with the 2001 Renewed Hope Settlement Agreement, which requires that 25% of new housing be affordable to lower-income households. In addition, future residential development may trigger substantial conveyance payments to the Navy, adding tens of thousands of dollars in costs per market rate unit. The staff note that these requirements can make denser development less financially attractive than lower density housing such as townhomes. The city is also reevaluating long-standing planning assumptions in the Main Street Neighborhood Specific Plan. Questions include whether a large central park remains practical, whether the area should be designed with stronger connections to the Main Street Ferry Terminal, and whether residential zoning should be expanded into areas currently reserved for adaptive reuse and community serving uses. Again, this is essentially a fact-finding meeting with no formal approvals being requested. For details, including a map of the area and ways you can make your voice heard, see Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. Last Tuesday was primary day, and as is typical for a California election, the votes are still being tallied. The tally might not take too long, though, as early indications are that this is among the lowest turnout of any recent election. As of Wednesday morning, June 3rd, the top gubernatorial vote-getters were Republican Steve Hilton at 27.8%, Democrat Javier Becerra and Tom Steyer at 25.4% and 19.6%, respectively. In other races, Congresswoman Latifah Simon and Assemblymember Mia Bonta were both enjoying comfortable leads in their races. Measure A, the Peralta College's Affordable Education Reauthorization Measure, was at 83.5% approval, while only needing a two-thirds majority to pass. Look for updates today, Friday, June 5th, as well as Monday, June 8th, and Friday, June 12th. Details and updates in Adam Gillett's article at alamedapost.com/news. At its May 26th meeting, the Alameda Unified School District Board voted to approve the name for the new athletic field at Encinal Junior and Senior High School. After 4 months of deliberation, the short list came down to Jets Field, Jetway Field, and Jet Pride Field. Students, parents, and staff were surveyed. There was no true consensus. Students preferred Jetway, families opted for Jets Field, staff was equally divided between Jets and Jets Pride. However, taken as a whole, the winner was Jets Field with 45% of the total vote. In other business, AUSD also presented budgetary breakdowns and authorized issuance and sale of 2022 and 2026 general obligation bonds. Additionally, at the beginning of the meeting, 3 Alameda students announced the launch of the Alameda Queer History Project. Full details in Ken Durr's article at alamedapost.com/news. Changes in the air for AC Transit. Let's start with the service schedule. Beginning Sunday, June 14th, schedule and routing adjustments will be made for a number of lines, including 19, 30, 51A, 96, 851, and O, to accommodate the nighttime Webster tube closures. Most of the schedule changes are comparatively minor. There are quite a few of them. For a line-by-line description, head to alamedapost.com/news. Fare increases are also on their way. Beginning Wednesday, July 1st, look for a slight increase in local fares, most of those being around 25 cents. Currently, a local single ride is $2.50 with Clipper, $2.75 with cash. That moves to $2.75 and $3. Transbay rides remain the same. There's actually a reduction of 25 cents in the price of a local to Transbay upgrade. Local day, weekly, and monthly passes rise by 10%. One useful feature, if you use a Next Generation Clipper card or contactless bank card, you'll be automatically upgraded when you've spent that amount. Example, a single daily ride is $2.75, a day pass is $6. If you take 3 single rides in a day, your total cost will be $6. Full details, including charts of all fare tiers, at alamedapost.com/news. On the subject of transportation, some much-needed funding. On May 28th, the Alameda County Transportation Commission approved over $1.6 million in funding for the city of Alameda. That's $757,000 to launch a 3-year Bay Wheels bike share pilot program on the West End. Also, $289,000 in funding to install 14 new curbside EV chargers. $149,000 for preliminary striping improvements on the Lincoln Avenue Marshall Way Pacific Avenue corridor west of Wilma Chan, and $440,000 to complete the design for the Willie Stargell Avenue Complete Street Corridor. Story at alamedapost.com/news. More funding, this time from the Rotary Club. They awarded a total of $30,000 to multiple city nonprofits, including FAS, the Alameda Post, and the Christchurch Homeless Showers Program. Additionally, a one-time grant of $20,000 was awarded to the Alameda Point Collaborative. Full story with a complete list of recipients in Megan Noonan's article at alamedapost.com/alameda-life. While you're there, check out Amanda Laird's All-Around Alameda column with suggestions for your weekend, including First Fridays at Alameda Brewing, the Two Marys Makers Market, Island Cat Resources Spring Fling, and the Alameda Point Antiques Fair, as well as the Farmers Market, which now includes Thursday evenings at Alameda Avenue and Park Street. Details at alamedapost.com/alameda-life. Don't forget, you can head to bayarearadio.org and cast your vote for the inaugural Bay Area Audiocaster of the Year Award. You can vote as often as you like. Find the Alameda Post on all the social media platforms, now including TikTok. Get the Postcast wherever you get your podcast, or simply tell your smart device to play the Alameda Postcast podcast. I'm Scott Peeler, back next Friday with episode 206 of the Alameda Postcast.